And we're recording. So, welcome to my second attempt at a podcast or a vlog. So, to give you guys an inside look at how clumsy I can be. Yesterday I started recording with the camera, but I forgot to hit record on the mixer. So, I got about an hour of great video footage, but an hour of no audio recording. So, today I've actually checked that the recorder is working. And it is, so we're good to go. So, for those who don't know, my name's Nero, South Asian, Sri Lankan, 27 years old. I love Muay Thai, love cars, I'd say, and also, things of science and tech related. But this idea that I had came from sitting down with three gents that I know very well, Niaz, Redwan, and Nahian. Shout out to those guys. Red and Nahian are the, co-founders of PrimeGen, and Niaz is the founder of Millennial Money. Him and one other friend, but I don't really know him, so apologies. Now, Red and Niaz sat down and came up with start spitballing, and we recorded an hour conversation and came up with the concept of Creator's Paradise. By no means am I a creative. My creativity relies in the fact that I can talk really well and in my Muay Thai. But I thought doing something like this with a focus on mental health for the first couple of podcasts, shall we say, would be beneficial to myself, and hopefully I can resonate with people in and around the world. Just talk about struggles I faced, and hopefully that will inspire someone to reach out and look for the help they need as well. So today's focus is going to be on men's mental health. I'll sort of take a little look into facts and figures here in the UK, but also in South Asian men as well, because that's something that's not spoken about. Neither is spoken about, to be fair. There's not a lot out there on men's mental health. There's a lot on mental health in general, but not a lot on men specifically, and even less so on South Asian men. Now, I'm going to dive straight in. So the facts I'm going to read out to you now are from mentalhealth.org.uk. They're a great organisation, and I came across all this because of the Men's Mental Health month they did in November last year. It's actually one of the factors that inspired me to do something like this, and also because all the effects that men face, it's being compounded and made worse by these lockdowns and the pandemic, because there's not a lot for us to do right now. So, some of this may shock you guys, some of this won't, if you're a bit, well-informed, shall we say. So, here we go. 3 times as many men commit suicide compared to women. Men aged 40 to 49 have the highest suicide rate in the UK. Men are less likely to access psychological therapies. 36% are only for men. 64% are women. 3/4 of adults that go missing are men. 87% of rough sleepers are men. Men are 3 times as likely to become hooked on alcohol or use drugs. Also, men report lower levels of life satisfaction compared to women on the government's National Wellbeing Survey. I don't know how they conduct this survey, but it's a fact. Now, just looking at those facts and figures, you do have to ask yourself, why is suicide and why is alcohol and drug abuse or depression so much worse in men? And it's because men don't talk, and we don't. We suck at it. We can tell you we're hungry, we can tell you we're horny, we can tell you we want to go out, we want to drink, but that's as far as it goes. Typical caveman mentality. Now, why don't men talk? 2 quite big ones: societal expectations and traditional gender roles. We're less likely to seek help, mental health problems, because of stereotypes and expectations that are thrust upon us from a young age. If you look at it, I didn't speak to anyone for a while because, one, I just felt less manly. I felt like I couldn't and I shouldn't, because that affects me as a man. I'm less of a man, I'm more of a boy if I do something like that. But also, it's the stereotypes that put on us. We're breadwinners, we're meant to be strong, dominant, and in control. These are good things. Being a breadwinner is great. Being dominant, being in control is all great. But it's also a factor that prevents us from reaching out and going, you know what, I need some help, or I'm feeling a certain way. So I mean, like, speaking for myself, I couldn't really turn around to my mum and dad and be like, I'm feeling a certain type of way, because I feel as if they would look at me in a certain way. So I don't see why other men would feel indifferently with their partners, with their children, with their friends, with their family. It's not just this, stereotypes and expectations, but it's a small part of it probably comes under the fact that men are quite egotistical. We may feel that we're less of asking help for anyone else. That's just my thought. Also, by the way, my thoughts, I'm not a qualified psychiatrist or psychologist in any way, so feel free to challenge, question, or get at me for anything that you disagree or agree with. Happy to always read and get back to you guys. There's not such a thing as male depression. Depression itself is universal in men, women, and children. But there's this that we have more common symptoms compared to women and children, and I'll run through those now. The most common are irritability, sudden anger, increased loss of control, risk-taking, and aggression. Usually there's the image that when a man's unhappy, he'll start punching a door or not. It's actually just a very bad portrayal of, one symptom depression in men is, sudden anger and uncontrollable anger. So, we also exhibit escapist behavior. So the use of alcohol and drugs. I'm sure you guys have seen it. Yourselves or loved ones, that you'll start to indulge in comfort food way more. You'll start to drink more alcohol, smoke more weed, or do harder drugs. Nothing I advocate, by the way, but it's a part of the problem, and we should discuss it openly. Now, another one is you become work obsessed. Your life becomes imbalanced. You just become so focused on your work that you lose familiar attachment. There's a big gap between yourself and your loved ones or your partner, and that affects you in many ways. Just going back to a fact I said before. 75% of suicides are men, and it's the largest cause of death for men under 50. Now, there's even higher rates in minority communities. By minority community, I just don't mean the BAME community, but also LGBTQ, war veterans, also men who earn less than their peers, so men who have a lower income. Socioeconomic hardship is a factor for men taking their own lives. Unemployment, relationship breakdowns, lack of social support all contribute to this. So we have to keep asking ourselves, why don't men talk? Now, the reason I'm doing this is because we can shed some light on it and have an open discussion. If not for yourself, or if you identified a loved one, what can we do for them? What can we do for ourselves? So hopefully this is something that could be of use to people. Now, I can't speak about anyone but myself. So I've started to look into, mental health in South Asian men. Now, there's quite a common notion that brown men don't cry. It is a thing. Depression and mental health is a taboo topic in our community. The typical Asian man, so if I could picture my dad, works, spends his time with his family, attends functions, prays, and then dies quietly without complaining. That is effectively it. Well, dies quietly without complaining about, his arthritis or type 2 diabetes. That's about it. That's literally it. I'd say the biggest thing in one of the biggest things that any Asian man or woman is faced with is the concepts of honor and shame. These two things, and what would society think, have stigmatized us not to reach out and get help when we need it. And I can't stress this enough. There are so many bad things that as a community that we do. The first thing we do is compare ourselves to others. I remember when I had the first ever discussion about, Mum, I feel I think I'm going through depression. I think my mum said, oh, look at your friends. They're just like you. They study just as much as you. They do much as you. They're not depressed. And I thought, okay, maybe I'm not. I was, but this is something I'll touch upon later. But you can see, right? You can see why it's harder in South Asians. It's not just being a man, but it's about being Asian too. And I had quite an interesting discussion with a friend. And a big part of South Asian mental health issue stems from intergenerational trauma. We've got parents that came here during times when we had the National Front, times when it was super hard for them. They didn't really speak the language, and they built everything they have today out of nothing, just off their own backs, without committing any crimes, without doing anything illegal or dodgy, well, for the most part. And by the most part, I don't mean my own parents, I mean just our community in general, just before anyone drops that in the comments. It's as if, like, your dad came here and did all this, and he didn't crack under pressure, didn't shed a tear. The only tear he did shed is when he sends his daughter off after she's married, or the sense of pride he has when his son's like a cardiothoracic surgeon. But it's cyclical, our parents went through it. They felt that pain, and rather than deal with it in a positive way, we suffer as well through them. And the only way that, that's very common in our community is that men deal with it is by the use of alcohol or, drugs. Drug abuse and alcohol abuse, they're rampant in our community. So all these things I've picked up on, read about, things that I'll share the links for. But the rest of this, I'll be talking about my own experiences, and, hopefully me talking about it will get someone who's listening to this one day to talk about it, get the help they need, as well as, see if they can spot any patterns in anyone else. It's quite a hard thing to do. So if I do stop to get some water, it's not because I'm thirsty, because I need to catch my breath and just control my emotions, as it were. So, okay, my experience is that this is a mad look into my life. So, I think the foundations for my issues start from the age of 4. It had to be. At the age of 3 or 4, my dad started putting an immense amount of pressure on me. One, because I was his first son, only son, and he wanted me. And he told me something that was insane. The day I was born, he said to my mum that he's going to make me into a doctor. Yeah, genuinely. Apparently that's the first thing he did. But looking at it, the age of 3 or 4, my dad would send me to tuition for 2 hours on a Saturday and a Sunday for the 7+ entrance exams, and it was mad, that kind, to have that sort of pressure put on yourself at such a young age. I remember, well, not really remember, but from what I understand, most of my cousins or friends didn't have that, and it's not surprising. I thought it was normal, not normal at all in any way. Now, at the age of 7, I remember going to Chico school. Got in after doing the entrance exam and some interviews. Now, my first experience that I knew that something was a bit different was when I played football for the first time at school. Now, my dad went out and got me the best boots he could. I remember I had the Nike Tiempos or the Mercurials, the one that Ronaldo wore or Ronaldinho wore at the 2001. That was a great Nike boots, like a gloss back. So he got me all the full kit, and I didn't know how to play football. Actually, I never kicked a ball in my life, which is weird for a 7-year-old boy. Remember, I got the ball, turned around, kicked the ball straight into my own net, thought I scored a goal, but I realized I scored an own goal. And I had spent so much time studying that I didn't know how to do what normal kids do. Like, didn't really play PlayStation. My dad didn't let me watch a lot of TV, so I couldn't really relate in terms of cartoons watched and that kind of thing. And the focus was just to study hard, and get through any exams. So one thing that I found out as I got older, my dad put so much pressure on me is because he had told people back home that he would make me into a doctor. Like, he promised his mum he'd make me a doctor, which is bullshit. I don't know. I don't really speak to my grandma as it is, but it's a different topic altogether, a different therapy session, as it were. But my genuine thing was that I was made to feel guilty if I wanted to change my career path. When I was 12, 13, I knew I was very good at maths. I was freakishly good at maths. I did my GCSE maths when I was 13 years old and got an A star. I remember finishing the exam in 45 minutes and walking out and being like, it's easy. And just leaving. And I got my A star very quickly. And Dad always said to me, well, why am I going to send you to private school if you're not going to study to be a doctor? And when you're 11 or 12 years old, you're thinking, I may as well go along to get along, because I don't want to lose what I've got here with all my friends and go to a different school. And especially I've got life sweet, so I just sort of did my best to play along. And that is an insane pressure to have at 11 or 12 years old. Like, I'll change your schools if you don't do what I tell you to do, And I realized I was under so much pressure, especially when I got my GCSE results. I did what I now know to be quite well. I got 8 A stars, 2 A's. But I remember I got my results and I got an A in German, and I burst into tears because I was so scared that my dad was going to essentially beat the crap out of me, when I was 15 years old. Not a small child, but someone who's a teenager. And I remember we went to get my results and I got 8 A stars, 2 A's. And the headmaster was like, "You've done fantastically well." And he said, "Tell your dad not to take it so hard on yourself, because you're in top percentile in the year group, in a very competitive year group as well." But the guy the guy that is my dad just looked at me and said, my Tiffany got 10 A stars, Amanda got 9. You should be ashamed. And I remember my mum and sister was just like, "Yo, you should at least get him a gift or something." I didn't expect a gift. And my mum really did take my side there and be like, "Yeah, you need to appreciate the fact he's done fantastically well." But yeah, that sort of pressure sort of was compounded in my academic years. So when I did my A levels, I wanted to do history, economics, maths, and biology. Yeah, biology. But my dad convinced me that, well, he didn't convince me, he told me I'm going to do maths further, maths, biology, chemistry, or physics. And he did, he made me. Grades were good, not as good as my GCSE results, but good. I got into uni. But I didn't get into med school because I was doing something and studying for stuff that I had no passion about. I remember I used to complain about doing further maths and physics to my dad, and he would just say, "We have to do it." And I would just take his word for it. Because every time I wanted to do something, both my parents made me feel so guilty about wanting anything else other than the fact that I wanted to be maybe an accountant or an economist or an investment banker. They're like, no, you're gonna become a doctor and be successful, and you're going to take care of the family. Well, that's bullshit. First of all, because one, doctors earn sod all in this country. I think an FY1 doctor earns sub 25, and so does FY2 doctor. Actually, I think there was a study done a couple of years ago that you could work 40 to 45 hours in a Lidl or an Aldi, and you'd 45 hours a week, by the way, make more than a junior doctor does, which is, in my ideas, insane. Now, going from there, I realized at uni that I couldn't be a doctor. One, because I remember doing a work experience in Sri Lanka, Lady Ridgeway Hospital, and every time I saw anything deeper than a skin level cut, I fainted, vomited, and these poor nurses not only had the job to look after these patients in underfunded government hospital in Sri Lanka, they had to worry about this kid from England that if he sees anything that's like in anything deeper than essentially a gash, will pass out. Not kidding. I'd always take a spare change of clothes to this to work experience because I would actually throw up on myself. I remember I saw a compound fracture and the doctor said, "Come here and help," or "Come have a look." I took one step, looked, and threw up on my own chinos. Not joking. And he said, "You're going to struggle if this keeps up." I was like, "Yep." But I did it anyway. Good experience, eye-opening, a lot of respect and, credit to doctors for what they do. But then, getting through my bachelor's and master's, I realized, I'm not well. One, because I became obsessed with things to take myself, do my mind off studying, because so much pressure had been put on me from a young age on how to, how to be successful. I should be studying all the time. Then, if I wasn't studying, I was made guilty for not studying. And at about 22, I realized that I'm suffering from depression because one, all through uni, I was in phenomenal shape. I was competing in amateur Muay Thai, always making weight, looking good, feeling good, being slimmer than I'd ever been. But when I got to the age where I had to reapply for medical school again because my dad wanted me to, I became so upset. Sorry. Because I realized it's something I didn't want to do. And if I give, well, I'll talk about the advice later. But I realized that when it came to it, I gained suddenly 15 kilos in the space of 2 months. I wasn't sleeping properly. It's because I was being forced into a life I didn't want to be forced into. You know, studying for another 4 to 6 years and living a career for someone else's wishes at that time seemed mad to me. And I finally just told my dad I can't do it anymore. You know, he didn't speak to me for a while, and personally I didn't really care. Because if he didn't really care about what I wanted, I didn't really give a shit about what he wanted. And it's simple as that. So now comes the advice part. If you are in a position where you are being forced to study something or do something that you do not want to do, no matter what bullshit your parents say, they could say like, oh, we gave birth to you, you know, we fed you, we raised you. No, they did what any other parent does. No joke. They did what any other parent does. And if they weren't willing to do that, they shouldn't have had children. It's as simple as that. Whatever they did was a choice, and it's not a debt you owe them. You don't owe them for looking after you. They shouldn't have had kids if they weren't willing to take that responsibility then. It's as simple as that. Now, something my cousin Rushan says to me, he's generally one of the guys in my life that, loved ones in my life that will look at me and be like, yo, you need to check yourself. And he's told me something. He said, parents aren't here forever. And, you know, it's true. When you're 50, they probably won't be here. So don't do stuff that makes them happy if it makes you sad. Because realistically, they won't be there for your struggles, and you will curse them and blame them for every single piece of misery you feel if you do something for them and not for yourself. So here comes the next point. You need to have this discussion early. It doesn't matter what they're going to do or say. You know, they're not going to kill you. I promise you that. Oh, well, my dad, well, I think he said he would, but he realized when I hit that growth spurt at 17 and stood like 5 inches taller than him, started lifting weights and doing mixed martial arts, that he said, yeah, I think he realized that killing me is probably easier to say than do. But, you know, you need to have this, I don't want to do this. I want to do this, because you need to prioritize your own mental health first. You need to realize that you'll be miserable if you don't. And I know this is very extreme, and being miserable is actually just in a scale of things, a scale of 1 to 10 is 5. I know 2 guys from the Sri Lankan community. One went to guys medical school from King's College, and he killed himself in his dorm room because he was forced to study something he didn't want to study. And someone else that I know went to forest school, I believe. He killed himself because his dad wanted to force him to become a doctor. I'm not saying there may have been other things. I know the second guy, he in his letter he wrote, you know, not being able to come out as being gay was one thing for him, but also being forced to study medicine was like the final straw. So he took his own life in his parents' house. Now, it's insane to think that there's so much pressure on young adults at such a young age just because what our parents want and because that's what their parents expected of them. When realistically, our parents are so misinformed and they're used to comparing us to other kids that they look at what's over there and think, I want my kid to do that. And that's great. You know, you should want what's best for your kid and what's within their remit and reach and harbour their passions. And this is what I'm going to say. It sounds really cheesy, but you should do what you want to do. But there's a caveat to that. If you want to pursue teaching. It's a great career. If you want to pursue being an accountant, be an investment banker. But don't turn around and say, I want to be a footballer. Because if you're shit at football and want to be a footballer, then don't. That's just a fantasy. It's not a dream or an achievable thing. Make sure, if you are going to have this chat, that you actually have a backup plan of what you want to do. Or have an idea of what you do. Because not everyone knows what they want to do at 18. You think you want to be something at 18. And when you can become 23, 24, you're like, oh shit, I don't do this at all. It's normal to have career changes. So normalize having these chats with your loved ones and your family, being, you know, I don't want to do this. I don't care what you want, but this isn't what I want. Because you are more likely to succeed at doing something you want to do because you'll put way more effort in than doing things out of fear for what someone else wants. And that is real. Anyone who's gone through this will tell you that immediately. Now, talking about depression in South Asia meant, going through that. I think my sister clocked, and my friend Abdullah, call him Bullah, but his full name's Abdullah, he clocked on, almost immediately. And I was lucky he did, because I tried to talk to my mum about it and she just shut me down. And, looking at why South Asian men don't speak about mental health was insane, because it's a taboo topic. My mum literally just turned around and said to me, well, your friends are doing this, this and this, and they don't feel it. And they might do, but who knows. But I was made to feel like that I'd be the only one. Simple as that. Genuinely, that was it. I was made to feel like I was abnormal, then I shouldn't be feeling stuff like this. I should just toughen up, crack on, and move on with my life, which is very toxic. But I'm glad that when I genuinely started contemplating ending my own life, because I was made to feel guilty for not pursuing someone else's dream. And I went to speak to my GP, and that one conversation made me open my eyes and go, you know what? My well-being isn't worth it's worth way more what these guys think. And what I have here is actually really toxic, because it compounds. You end up in toxic relationships with people you don't want to be with. Your friendships suffer, your body suffers. You either gain excessive weight or you lose a lot of weight. You become hooked to food or alcohol or drugs, or just to going out and not being at home, and you become deeply, deeply, deeply unhappy. Now, you could be going through it now, and you might go through it in the future. You might see someone who's been through it. You might have come out of it, and anyone who goes through it or seen someone go through it will tell you it's the worst thing to see yourself or a loved one go through it. Which is why I'm just having this sort of conversation with myself, and hopefully with you guys. First step is to understand that you have a problem. Second step is to speak to someone. It's a joke saying brown men don't cry, but maybe brown men should talk first, and the tears would start flowing naturally afterwards. Which sort of brings me on to what I did after that. I started to write down my emotions in journals and on pieces of paper. And because it was just a conversation with me about me, I started to feel better, because you can be honest to yourself. There's no perceived judgment from a friend or a loved one. You can just be honest with yourself. And I used to burn those, and I used to feel like a weight came off my shoulders, because I was just honest to myself. I didn't have to lie, because it's you. Why are you going to lie to yourself? Why are you going to write down shit that you don't believe in, or that is dishonest, if you're going to read it yourself and just burn it anyway? My real change came when, and I'll be totally honest, I'm not blowing smoke up her ass, but more than 2.5 years ago, I met my partner, and she gave me a totally new outlook on life. And I realized that self-value is a thing. There is, you can be loved without expectation, because one thing I felt like was, when my parents made me feel guilty a lot, there's only love if you accomplish what they want you to accomplish. That's not love. That's toxic. And she's always reiterated that I will always be the love of her life, regardless of what I do or do not achieve. And I find that so weird that, sorry, she's write something down so I don't forget, that she would, that people are like that in the world. And that's when I realized that I should have told myself that what she told me years ago. There should be, if people do truly love you, they love you without any expectation of what you can do or what you can give them. But yeah, so when I sort of reached the normality last year, 2020 as it were, the worst year of our generation so far, a lot happened to me outside of COVID. Not to myself personally, but to my loved ones. Now, 2020 started off awesome. I got a new job, bought a new car, bought a BMW 5 Series, lovely car. Went to Amsterdam with my sister, my missus and her brother. Drove there, had good fun, came back. Started to meet the cousins I've spoken to in years, just having a good time. I was in great shape, I was boxing, went pro with my Muay Thai the year before. Things are going fantastic. And then in March, my mum goes to hospital with what I won't say, because it's not my place to say, and she wouldn't want me to tell you guys, but it was life or death. And That was the first big thing. Yeah, the first, not the only big thing of 2020. And I remember taking mum to hospital, and it was during the start of the first lockdown. I couldn't go in, and I was just pacing around my uncle's house and my own house, wondering if my mum would make it. And thank God she did. She came out of hospital, and I think I breathed a sigh of relief. But I realised that, as worried as my sister was, I realised after I couldn't let her know I was worried, because she doesn't have the greatest relationship with my dad, and didn't have the greatest relationship with my dad at that time. And I remember showing that if I'm worried, then what the fuck who's she gonna talk to? I mean, she talks to her cousins and stuff, cousins as it were. But I can't let her know that I'm struggling. But maybe if I spoke to her, we could have shared our pains and our struggles and come through it together. But, that's feeding back to what we talked about before, the idea that we have to be masculine, macho, and show no pain or show no discomfort. It ties into what I was saying, as men, we don't talk about when we're suffering or when we're struggling mentally. It's just a part of the game. Now, that was the first thing. My dad was told he needed open heart surgery during the lockdown and pandemic, because his situation was that bad. We're talking about how men deal with stress. My dad, consumed a lot of alcohol, and suddenly now we, no surprise, being a diabetic, needed, open heart surgery. And second thing happened where I remember my mum, sister and me, and were worried. And I drove my dad to hospital, and I dropped him off, and I looked at essentially a very frail old man. Not old, 55 isn't old, but he looked old. Yeah, he looked weak. And I sent him off to hospital thinking, holy shit, I might not see my dad alive after today. And I dropped him. I got in the car, and I told my mum, sister, he'll be fine. My mum was like, yeah, he'll be fine. I know my mum's holding it in as well, given what happened to her. But I drove them home, and I went to pray, and I remember crying and thinking to myself, yeah, whatever happens, bring this guy back. He's my dad. No matter how much we argue, how much I dislike him, I still do love him because he's my father. And the relief I felt when he came home was insane, but I never got to share it with anyone. The struggle I went through. I told Shruti about how I was feeling, and she was like, he's going to be fine. Because what else would she's not going to say, well, he might not make it. Because then how's it going to make me feel? But even then, I never showed how I truly felt. I never told her that I was, crying my eyes out and not sleeping properly. Because when you have both your parents going through, potentially life-losing situations, you do lose sleep. You do become affected up here. You start to feel an insane pressure, like, oh shit, if anything happens to them, then I've got to look after my sister. I've got to start paying the bills for the house. And unless you go through it, you might laugh at he's thinking about he's got to pay for the mortgage and stuff. Well, you guys are lucky enough not to have things happen to your parents, or if you have done, you may know the stress you go through. But that wasn't just it. Yeah, this is only halfway through the list of things. One Saturday I was just in bed, spent the evening with my cousins, had a couple of drinks, came home. It was post-lockdown, by the way, before anyone thinks they can snitch and be like, oh, everything on the house is during lockdown. But Dad opens the downstairs door and yells, Nisha's had an accident, come now. I'm thinking, what's this idiot done now? I literally go downstairs, look in the kitchen, she probably cut herself and hurt herself quite badly there. And then my dad goes, no, she's been hit by a car. And I remember the cold feeling that went from the tip of my head to the through to my feet. Just my blood went cold, so I jumped in the car and drove to where she got hit by a car. She'd been out jogging, emerged onto the road and been hit by a car by a mum that had been arguing with her son. And I came across my sister, and she was lying on the floor, and I couldn't tell if she was dead or alive or not. And I looked at my sister, and she was moving, so I breathed a sigh of relief. And she was put in an ambulance. I spoke to people around me, and I followed the ambulance with no one, just me. My mum and dad were getting in their car. I followed the ambulance all the way to Whipps Cross Hospital. Got out, walked to the A&E, and they said, you can't come in, only your sister can go in. Third time Within 6 months, I got into hospital for a loved one. Immediately related to me. And I remember again praying and going, I hope with all my heart that my sister's fine, because I don't know what I'd do if she wasn't. And now, what I can say is that my sister literally that evening, hit by a car, concussed, covered in cuts, bandages, lost a bit of blood. Went to pick her up that evening. She was walking, or hobbling out is a better word, covered in bandages, face swollen, goes to me, I need to get home and do my dissertation. And I looked at her and I was like, you are a G. You got hit by a car. I would have claimed extenuating circumstances, extended my deadline, made a fat insurance claim, probably gone to Dubai. But this girl is talking about doing a dissertation. By the way, I read it. Words a bit jumbled up. She was concussed, bandages on her fingers and all, but still typing away, and did finish it. And credit to her, she got 2 on a degree. I think she got a first on her dissertation. Very impressive, given that she was hit by a car. Now, fast forward a couple of months, some sense of normalities, sort of settled in, and my partner has a health scare, and I'll worry about her. Now, she won't want me to tell you what's going on, but you can tell that it's building up. Mom, dad, sister, fiance, all these things are building up, and before you know it, she's come out of it okay. I spoke to her about things. I said, I'm here for you, and let's just take this step by step. And then I remember I was being in a garden one day. My boys were there. Brad was there. Brad's my head coach at Muay Thai. My cousins were there. My mates were there. Their friends were there having a barbecue. My mate brought his wife to my house the first time. And I'm dropping my mate at the station in the middle of the barbecue, and my girl goes to me, they found a clot in my mum's brain. And, as is, I don't have the best relationship with my girl's mum, but I got a lot of love for her because she always showed me a lot of love, in the sense that always cooked for me, always cooked my favourite food. And I can't show her how worried I am, because my partner would start to think that she couldn't confide in me, and her brother can't confide in me. I remember seeing her crying, and I gave her a hug and I said, things are going to be okay. And I've seen now everyone that I hold dear, aside from my girl's brother, God willing, nothing happens to this guy, suffer and go through the most immense pain. And it all caught up to me, because I looked in the mirror, and when I weighed 85 kilos in January, 83, my fighting weight in Muay Thai is 73. So, lean, 5'9". It's good, like physically very good shape. I looked in the mirror, I weighed 101 kilos, and I was like, Jesus Christ, this is the toll it's taken on your body. Because my friends were saying to me, yo man, like, you're going to have a breakdown if you don't talk. And I was like, yeah, no, I'll be fine. And I'd realized I'd not been sleeping. Just been staying out, drinking more than I should have, eating more than I should have. And I realized that my mental health had gone to shit. So I'm worrying about everyone except for me. I'm not saying I shouldn't have worried about everyone. I just didn't make time for myself, And my relationship with my partner started to suffer. I started to detach from her, get angrier, fight with her more, until I took the step to write a 5-page letter to her, talking about how I feel. And it wasn't a comprehensive letter, it was just the first part. And she sat me down, gave me a hug, and spent the whole day talking through it with me, and gave me nothing but the time, love, and attention she could give. And I started the healing process. I realized that I was healing because I was sleeping better. I've dropped 10 kilos since then, which is an insane amount of time, in a insanely short amount of time. And I reached out to my coaches, Coach Brad, KO Gym, Coach Danny, Archers Boxing, Kat, my strength and conditioning coach, Master Bill, the founder of KO Gym. They all offered me so much crazy love and support, and Aaron, the one of the boxing coaches, showed me nothing but love, and they were just open to listening to me, and that helped so much, because I'm so glad that I did. Because I'll be totally frank and honest with you, I was in tears one night, and I called up my partner to end everything, not with her, just my own life. And then she said to me, it's going to be fine. You're going to be good. You're going to come through this. I'm going to be here for you. I'm going to hold your hand every step of the way. And I realized that I'd rather have this conversation with her and I cry than me do something stupid and, not be there for her when she's the one crying. And it's insane. It's insane that I thought I could, physically and mentally get through everything that happened in 2020 and realized that, I should have just from the get-go had someone to speak to and just been more open and positive about having these conversations with people, which is why I'm having this conversation with you. And actually, one thing I've written down here in capitals is my friend Manny. After what happened to my mum and dad, this guy called me up and said, we're going to go for a walk. And this is during the pandemic, the pandemic's first lockdown. We went for a walk and sat on a bench. He sat down, opened up to me what happened in his life. And he's my best friend. I've known this guy since I was like 13. I'm 27 now. We've been friends for almost 15 years this year. And also, shout out him, actually. Check out Evolve Drinks on Instagram. The guy does vegan cold pressed juices. If you're looking for the healthy kick in 2021, my guy is the guy to get at. But he sat down and said, I'm here. And I remember at the time thinking, this guy's got my back and I'm an idiot for not using that avenue, because I was just, arrogant enough to think I could stomach this myself and get through it myself. But what I realized was I should have realized that I need to be people to speak to. Obviously, he didn't push it because, how can you push these conversations? Which brings me on to, what you can do. Individually, if you're going through this, that the first thing you need to accept is there may be a problem. There might not definitely be a problem, but you need to understand if you're feeling different, and it's not a natural progression, it's not a natural evolution. It's not going to come to you as soon as it happens. These things accumulate over a period of time. They accumulate over a period of God knows how long. But the moment you realize you have an issue, you should open up and reach out to someone. And you should always understand that if these people are truly your loved ones and your friends and your family, they will talk to you without judging you. They will have no judgment. First, tell yourself that, because that is true. People I do speak to, whether they be my partner, my sister, my best friends, colleagues, coaches, friends, training partners, these guys have no judgment. They only want to see you do better and get well. And if they don't, then you shouldn't have those people in your life. And that's a different conversation to have altogether. But you should always, always, always have that conversation. You need to break down and cry to them. You just tell them, hey man, I'm feeling a certain way and I think it's because this and this. And because those people probably know you quite well, they'll start tracking back and understanding where things have changed and where things have, gone left, as it were. Now, looking at the next step, seek professional help. Have a chat to your GP. Obviously, it's very difficult during the COVID pandemic. But I think one of the biggest steps was having a chat to my GP. Actually made me realize that I don't need antidepressants. I need to just have a chat and open up. Everyone is thinking, if I'm depressed, if I take antidepressants, I'll be fine. Taking pills probably isn't the answer in this case. It's just a fact of you need to have more healthy communication with the people around you. Have those difficult conversations, because those difficult conversations could set you up for something so much greater in the future, and prevent you hurting yourself in ways that you can't even see, or maybe ending your own life. And I can attest to that. I'm sitting here having this conversation because I was brave enough to have that conversation in the first place. Looking at what my thoughts are on what you can do, it's different for everyone. The first thing I did is I wrote down all the things that I didn't like and the things I wanted to do. And I didn't just write down, I'm not rich enough, I need to make £3 million in the next 3 years. That's, set yourself attainable goals. If you can make £3 million in the next 3 years, hit me up after this, man. I had to chat to you. Let's do something, as long as it's legal. But I'm being serious in the sense that set yourself achievable goals. Have this conversation with this person. Wake up, take a shower, make my bed, get to work on time, eat a healthy lunch, do half an hour to an hour of exercise. All these little changes will bring positive change in your life. And it starts by you taking a very critical eye to your own daily routine and going, I need to change this, this, and this about myself. And if you realize, you are taking more alcohol or drugs than you should have, I mean, I'm a big advocate for legalizing marijuana, but there may be a time in anyone's life, and I'm not a regular user, and I rarely do use it. I think the last time I did use it was in Amsterdam. But I will openly, honestly say that if you are struggling with any substances or food, then maybe you should seek help in a form of counselling or a rehabilitation program, because if you don't, then you can end up doing more harm than good to yourself, and you might die prematurely, and then the people around you that love you will suffer more than you will. You'll be gone, but they'll be stuck with this horrific image of you, being a former shell of what you used to be and passing away. Now, it sounds brutal to say, but that's the truth. Man, I've said goodbye to people that due to substance abuse at university, and I just realised I was unhappy in life, and I could have been there to stop them. Which brings me on to the next point. If you're lucky enough not to have any of these issues, you might notice that your friends haven't been the same. Check in on them. We're in a lockdown. We can only meet one person at a time. That's for exercise. People might not be able to meet people because they're out with at-risk family members. Check in on your boys, check in on your girls, check in on your dad, your mum, your uncles, your aunties, your nieces, your nephews, your grandparents, because they're going to feel more isolated than ever. And if they are suffering with these underlying issues, whether it be depression or being bipolar, then you need to be there for them. You need to prevent them from spiraling and getting worse. I'm not saying you can be the cure for them, but you can definitely be there for them. Be an outlet for them. Listen to them. Because nothing bad can happen from you listening to those people suffering, right? If you really do love them, then you can give them good advice. You can go be there for them, be with them, help them in whichever way, shape or form. Now, one thing I would leave you guys with is, this has been a relatively short vlog or podcast, but if you're ever in a position where you are going to do something that's going to harm yourself, call the police, call 999, call Samaritans, call Calm. I'll put all the links to those and contact numbers, on this video, and I will do my best to put as much information out as I can. But someone is always happy to listen to you, because they would much rather listen to you than attend your funeral or watch you harm yourself and become, more and more damaged. So take the time just before you go and do something insane and stupid. It is stupid. And speak to someone, whether it be a professional or someone close to you. You need to have that chat. Always realize that you're not the only person going through this. You're the foundation, or the foundation stone, or the foundations to how you're feeling may be different, but the symptoms and the actual illness itself is the same. Everyone goes through it. And, if you don't, I hope you don't go through it. It's a horrible thing to feel. But I also feel that, if you're going through it, it's okay. You're not the only one. You're not alone. You never will be. There are people in the world that will go through this depression. And it can last either 1 month or it can last a lifetime. No one knows, except for yourself. So always have this support bubble around you. And that's easier said than done. But hopefully by having these, these videos and having someone like myself come out and say, it's happened to me as well, we can sit down without, just be honest with ourselves and have the conversation we need to have. But yeah, I feel like I'm waffling a bit too much at the end here, but yeah, relatively short for my first vlog or podcast. It's 49 minutes long. Not bad. I didn't think it'd be a long one because I didn't want to dive too much into, the horrors I faced as last year, but more of, more into just, surface level looking mental health. And just to give you guys an idea, over the next coming recordings and weeks, I'll be chatting to other people, people who are formerly PTs, people who have suffered depression, people who are in different fields, potentially medical professionals who want to help me and get some good advice out there. We can hopefully I can bring something useful to you guys. Also, if you've heard any sort of snoring or scratching in the background, I have 2 dogs. So one is sleeping under my table right now. I'm pretty sure the snore has been caught by the microphone, so I do apologize. They are adorable, and I'm very grateful to the fact that they haven't disrupted or disturbed this in any way. Just finally, I wanted to say thank you to Niaz for hooking me up with this mixer. Also, I want to take the opportunity to shout out to my mates, brands, Mr. P's, Pro Smart, by Al-Kindi, the beard oil brand. They've made this beard look fantastic. Essex Bullyard hooking me up with my dogs. Prime Gen, Millennial Money, Sriti's art page, fantastic art. She's released a print of a tiger. It looks absolutely insane. Can't wait to have a Shopify store up and running for you guys to purchase those prints. But yeah, and Evolve Drinks, my guy's coming over in like 20 minutes to drop off some pressed juices for me. I can't wait to get hold of those. If I could leave you one thing, it's just please do like and share this video, not just for myself, but for anyone who might need just to listen to this. We're all suffering, but hopefully by coming together we can suffer less, and if I can help someone, then I've succeeded. That was the whole point of this video isn't to become YouTube famous or become a YouTube star. It's to give back to the world, and that's something I want to do, and I'm going to use this as my platform. Yeah, thanks for being here. Thanks for listening, and I will see you guys soon.